So the first thing to say is thank you to the tremendous and eloquent speakers who were before me. I think it's really exciting in a way that I was in the UK for 13 years and there was often a big focus on new build homes and new build buildings, but I think the really exciting point is to get to where we are, which is this big shift to our existing stock. You saw the challenge from Drew for New Zealand to get to lower carbon. Now, that only happens when we gear in. The ratio we talked about in the UK was over 80% of the buildings we have now are still going to be with us in 2050. So that's where we need to focus. When Gary Walker from ECA spoke last week at Facilities Integrate, he was great. He also said that Neighbours is a little bit like Kim Kardashian, in that it's very popular. You know, people show off a bit with it, but it also likes to be looked at regularly. And I think that's really important, that we've seen here from Frank the example that you get these significant improvements through time. And I think it's also exciting to be a part of this. So at the NZGBC, I'm Andrew Eagles, the new Chief Executive, and our vision is New Zealand is living, working and playing in healthy and productive buildings. So let's look a bit at what we're up to and how we're progressing that. So we do that through sharing knowledge and innovations with world-leading training and events, and it's good to just be able to thank Katie and Myra and the team for putting today on. I think they've done an exemplary job. Particularly useful to locate us here where we can look out at all the potential Neighbours buildings outside. I think that's a great spot. We're a rallying call for change and for great buildings. We're bringing the sector together with useful networks that spark creativity. So this morning and this afternoon I've already heard people talking about how they can make improvements to their buildings. Creating a common language for quality buildings that perform well. And what is that quality language? Well, it's part of what we're talking about today. So you've seen that there's a financial return. There's been some tremendous work lately that's come out of Harvard University. Did people see the research that came out a couple of weeks ago? It showed that on average in green certified buildings, productivity increases by over 25% in people. What's interesting about that is that the actual largest cost to people and buildings is the salaries and the productivity of those people in buildings. There's a long-held ratio that it's 1:10:200. Now, have people heard of that? It's the Evans ratio from the Royal Institution of Engineers in the UK. Now, it's actually out quite a bit. So more recent research shows that it's more like 1 to just under 1 to about 12. Now, what does that mean? What it means is if you take the cost of the construction of the building and treat that as about 1, now during the course of the building you get to a ratio equivalent to that construction of about just under 1 for the costs of maintaining and running the building. But the largest cost of that building is the ongoing costs of paying for people who are in the building working, right? It's us as employees. And that's at over 12 times the capital cost of the building. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you get tremendous returns from creating an efficient, productive working environment with better daylight, better air quality. So people they're brighter in the morning. And I know I need it because to get my brain working, I certainly need a 20% increase in productivity. But here you can see some of the other examples. So tenants in green buildings report an average of just under 3 fewer sick days a year. Students in green-rated school buildings achieve 14% higher test scores. So these are real, evidence-backed, and they just continue to pump out this research. Just want to give you a background on what's happening in other parts of construction. So Homestar is a methodology for analysing the environmental performance and the energy efficiency of homes. It can be undertaken on any home. And here you can see the dramatic rise we've seen even just in the last 18 months in terms of uptake of Homestar. And so Sam Archer, is Sam here? So Sam's So Sam's just taken on the role as Director of Rating Tools. So actually you can't thank him for this, thinking about it, because he wasn't here. But you can thank Shay and other members of the team, and Vivian and other members of NZGBC who have done so well to lead that uptick in Homestar ratings. Obviously Sam is going to take it even higher. So Green Star, you heard Satish talk brilliantly about their accreditations. Green Star, we've seen a similar kind of rise. Here you've got management, energy, water, materials, land use, ecology, and innovation. Quite interesting here. This allows you to accrue points for taking steps which are going to shift the market, or steps which are accredited internationally. So there's quite a bit more flexibility than there has been in the past with Green Star. And it touches on some of the elements that Frank mentioned there, but just at the built stage. And here's the cumulative registrations through Green Star, that same increase in uptake. So Kim Kardashian would be proud. Things are popular and moving forward. So just on NABERS, a bit of a summary there. Over 1,700 self-assessments and 55 certified ratings to date. So we're looking at 200,000 metres squared of commercial office space has undergone a certified rating. So that's good, and in particular the last 3 months have been a significant increase. But interesting here, all of the interest, and we know that lots of people are taking steps or getting their data together. So part of today is quite an exciting announcement about how we can help you take those final steps to move to certification. So you've actually heard this, and I think you know it, but the rating covers both tenancy and base building and the whole building, so I won't go into that. So getting a rating, you can do a self-assessment online, engage an assessor. There's a list of assessors available on our websites. Any assessors here? I know Alex is here. Any other assessors? Yep, so there are 4, 5, some of them are a bit slower this morning. 6 or 7, I think. So that's great to see. So which data will you need? You'll need survey plans measured to the Property Council of New Zealand standard, 12 months of utility bills, check meter readings, diesel delivery bills, that type of detail, leases, BMS records, after hours records, occupancy surveys. I don't actually think it's as onerous as some rating tools. I think you're going to get a lot of return from that. The first time is always the hardest, so there's some common challenges: lack of adequate metering, the net lettable area surveys, lack of up-to-date single line diagrams. Just to focus on how facilities managers actually influence the outcome. Now this is an indication. So where you have a partially insourced building management company, it can impact on 1.3 of the stars. Interestingly, where there's penalties or incentives to maintenance contractors, you're looking at about half a star. So those things can impact and help to improve up those star ratings. I think this is quite exciting. Where there's a training program in place, that can impact on about 0.5 as a star, but really, look at this big step. Facilities managers report a high level of energy efficiency knowledge. That helps to move up considerably. So, how do you know if you're ready? Well, you look at getting your first certified rating, and in terms of going through that journey, getting an energy efficiency improvement plan. And you want to have engagement with tenants, property owners and others to think through that, as Satish set out. So the really exciting part about today is we've been talking with ECA about gaining more uptake, and they've been really on board with that, and we want to help people get stuck in. So today we're announcing free NABERS feasibility assessments. There's 60 available. It comes on a first come, first served basis, and those are spread across Auckland, Christchurch and Wellington. You'll get quite a bit of support and assistance to get you right to the point of being ready to undertake a NABERS assessment. So I think that's really useful to get a whole lot more people engaged and ready to take that up. So NABERS New Zealand, so NZGBC, will assist you with an initial meeting to go through which information is needed and agree a timetable for all of that work. You'll then get another meeting to go through the feasibility checklist, and then you'll get a specific report setting out where you are and what else is needed for you to go in and start down that NABERS route. So, you know, that sounds like a bit of support, doesn't it? That's nice, but specifically, what does it mean? Well, you're getting quite a bit of consultancy support through that. It's going to save you an awful lot of time and energy, and it should also help with the assessor getting the work done. So it's helping in a number of ways. How do you apply? Well, you can speak to one of us. There's the wonderful Myra at the back who's been leading on this campaign. If you don't know Myra, you should say hello. Or you can go to nabers.gov.nz. We're at Facilities Integrate. Don't go to H10. It's not a place in this building. If we see someone on level 10 on the way down, we'll know what's going on. So we're speaking today, but we're also speaking in Wellington. So if you have colleagues in Wellington, do let them know they can come along and see the presentation today. We have had people asking about how they can get trained up or for more knowledge on NABERS. So there's the practitioner course, so that you gain a good knowledge of the rules, the data requirements, meeting requirements, common problems in existing buildings, and the calculator, or you can become an assessor. So if that's of interest, also do touch base with us. And I'd really like to provide an opportunity for you to ask Frank some questions directly after this, and myself. But if you've got other questions you'd like to put to us, do let us know. And in terms of the team here, if you can't get a hold of Myra, there'll be people queuing up to speak with her. There's Sam, who waved before, who's new. There's Shay at the back, who's going to wave as well, and there's Katie here. But also Vivian is going to wave. See Vivian now, because she leaves in 2 weeks' time to go on maternity leave. So she's very, very knowledgeable on all of this. So, yeah, I mean, just in summary, in terms of uptake generally that we're seeing in the market, Green Star 5-star is becoming standard for commercial office buildings in the Auckland CBD. Important to note that we're seeing increasingly Green Star being requested for theatres, for hotels, for car showrooms, for hospital facilities, also for petrol stations, interestingly, and Homestar is being adapted. But it's exciting to help with the uptake of NABERS, because I fundamentally believe that if we want to provide a productive environment and a higher quality of life, then this whole agenda is actually about performance. And this is the first step in the New Zealand context to take that forward. NZGBC also has a membership offer. We have over 500 organisations involved, and that's growing. They support events and uptake and other things. So just to give an indication, I think you've kind of got the point, but here is Jason Happy from Kiwi Property. We used NABERS as the benchmark, so we knew 205 Queen Street was tracking at about 3.5 stars. That's helped us make investment decisions required to reach 4 stars and step up. We're really seeing that engagement and that investment following that. We operate out of that building. If you talk to Sam or Myra, any of the team, you'll notice they're exceptionally happy. That's because they're in a NABERS building, fundamentally, and also the amount of coffee they had this morning. So here you've got IAG saying we saw a 40% reduction in energy consumption, and NABERS helped verify that independently. So thanks a lot for the opportunity to speak today. Really appreciate you coming in early in the morning for those thoughts. I just want to provide a chance for you to ask our Australian cousins some questions further, and any other thoughts you might have before we stop for some more breakfast and coffee. There is coffee, I'm sure. So Frank, if you wanted to come up and join me. Any other questions on how that was taken forward in Australia, or some of the feedbacks, or suggestions on how to get more uptake? Do you think that councils, for instance, should be requiring neighbours? Do you think... Alex, yes.
Hi, Alex from the Building Excellence Group. Andrew, thanks for launching that. Question that's been burning in my head and I've been trying to repress. and putting it as a bit of a challenge to you, all the graphs we've seen seem to indicate that major uptake happens when a government or a council or an NGO provides either law or financial incentives. You just announced a little financial incentive, so thanks for that. Sort of answers the first part of the question, but the other question...
You're welcome. Also from EK, you're welcome.
So, well, question to you, Andrew.
Yes.
How soon are you going to go down and, considering you're probably in Wellington tomorrow, work with government, and by work I mean lobby, to making it mandatory to disclose neighbours' ratings? The other graph that Frank showed, which was awesome, is the more ratings you do, the more you improve. So there is a correlation between real outcomes and doing this sort of paperwork exercise.
Yeah.
So encouraging mandate of ratings soon will, in logic, deliver real benefits in 5 to 7 years' time. So how soon can you go and make that happen?
Very good. Well, thanks. That's a good challenge. It's nice to have that. I've been in the country about a month, and it's good to have some goals. So look, I think if you look at what government wants to get done, the noises I have is that they want greater uptake, and they're doing that in a whole number of ways, right? Through quite a bit of a few different programs. And you've only heard about one today to gain uptake, and we're seeing that start to increase. Now, so you're asking about mandatory. I mean, I can't say that that's not going to happen. What I can say is they're pushing quite hard to increase uptake, and I think that there is an element at which it's important to get the market ready and engaged. We've got 60 feasibility studies. That's quite a good tranche. And we know that people are gearing up for this. So the sense I get is actually that there's a bit of support from the market. I mean, you tell me, but that in due course that this could be required. But I think, A, I really welcome the challenge, thank you. And B, we are talking about that kind of trajectory. But I'll hand over to Drew to comment further. And also would welcome Frank's thoughts, to be honest, on how to take that forward.
Just a couple of points from ECA's point of view with that. We don't directly fund neighbours, except for we've got one program that do with building performance advice, where if you're building a new building or doing a major refurb, there's a potential for a neighbours rating out of that. And a lot of our programs do fund continuous commissioning, optimisation, and looking at improving your building, which gives you a better neighbours rating at the end of it. As far as talking with government as such, we're obviously always talking to government. Tomorrow, because we've got Frank over here, obviously we thought it was quite good to go down to Wellington. And a meeting we've got tomorrow is with GPG, Government Property Group, who deals with all the leasing within the government portfolio. And some of you guys know about WAP 2 already, so the next one will be WAP 3. So we're going to have discussions with that. So we're always pushing the agenda to get it more buy-in, more uptake. So watch your space, I guess, but it's not always easy, but we're always having that conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I mean, I would say it's going to be different for New Zealand because, whereas we started out with a kind of experimental tool, you've got a kind of fully fledged and developed product. So I don't think you need necessarily the time delay that we had before introducing mandatory disclosure, but I do think there is some logic in having the sequencing, the same sequencing, in terms of having the procurement policy first, so that you get the premium property or a whole bunch of people on board and using it in a voluntary way, and creating, because the reason behind that is that it lifts that one end of the market, so that when everyone has to turn over their cards, a 1-star rating looks really bad. If you get everyone to hand over their cards straight away, and the average is average, then it doesn't create that point of difference, if you know what I mean. I mean, people will still obviously then try and improve. But I think having mandatory disclosure after the procurement policy, you don't need the kind of time delay that we had, but I think there's logic in the sequence.
I'm going to seek some feedback from you. It'd be a bit controversial. I'd welcome thoughts. But so how would you feel if government were to say we're going to look for mandatory ratings, not a specific star rating, but mandatory ratings by, let's say, mid 2018? How would that feel? Who would be supportive of that? I think the assessors would put their hands up. Anybody else who would be supportive in addition? Okay, great. And who would say 2019? So that's 2.5 years. Okay. So interested in thoughts. There's a bit of support, some hands, but obviously some people a bit unsure, or not wanting to say either way. But interested in thoughts around that. If anyone wanted to talk about why or why not. Hi, yeah. If you could just say who you are.
Yeah, Greg Wilder, JLL.
Great, thanks.
I'm just wondering what the relationship is between foreign ownership, especially with financial institutions for commercial properties in New Zealand, where ownership is changing hands within 2 to 3 years, and NABERS ratings. And the reason for that is I imagine the uptake would be much better with local owners that are going to hang on to their properties for 10, 20 years than it would be for financial house that's going to roll the property in two.
Right.
They wouldn't get a chance to see a return on investment.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, it might be useful to have other perspectives. I haven't got those figures directly, the cut of those, the difference in the percentage uptake. So, Frank?
Yeah, look, I can't give you graphs or figures, but anecdotally, so we have, and now with all of the policies and the legislation in place, you hear of building owners who own buildings that maybe are based in Singapore that have a 0-star rated building and can't shift it, and they don't understand why they can't sell this building. And then someone's explained to them it's because the NABERS rating is so poor, people won't buy it. So it does make a big difference with foreign owners because they're not in context, they can't understand immediately what the impact is.
Okay, so the final question from me to you is just to get a bit of an indication of people who'd be interested in feasibility studies. Does that sound interested, or you think that is useful to help? See a bit of a show of hands. Okay, great, excellent. Well, I hope today's been really useful. Let's continue the conversation either with speakers now or you can contact us through NZGBC. And other thoughts, do let colleagues know in Wellington if you think it'd be useful for them. We do have feedback forms. We'd really appreciate hearing from you. You should have got those in your pack if you could let us know your thoughts on this or other subjects. Final thing just to say is thanks so much to all the speakers. Satish, you came in brilliantly at the last moment, spoke so well, but also Frank over from New South Wales, and also Drew. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.